Okay, let's kick off for our cheese chat for the month. And this month we're talking to Sonia and Charlotte from Mainridge Dairy down on Mornington Peninsula, and their cheese is Caprino, the semi-hard goat cheese um, that we're featuring in this month's therapy box. So, welcome Sonia, welcome Charlotte. I'd like to introduce you to a few people. Kerry, who's the other half of Cheese Therapy. Um, Anne is in the background there. She's helping us with a little bit of tech support to make sure everyone's mics are muted and unmuted at the right time. And we also have Adele Wessell, who's the Associate Professor of History at Southern Cross Uni. And Adele's here to talk to us a little bit about the history of cheese and how cheese making fits in the whole within the whole food scene of Australia, and just gives a nice little bit of rounded edge to our discussions rather than just being focused straight on cheese and wine and how you eat it. So that's everyone. Maybe we can start by talking to you, Sonia or Charlotte, whoever would like to talk to start. But just tell us a little bit about Mainridge Dairy and where it is and what you do, and yeah, we'll take it from there.
Did I unmute? Yes. Okay, so Charlotte is our very talented cheesemaker, one of them, and I'm simply the person who pulls it all together. So you may know or you may not know, Mainridge Dairy has been a brand that has been around since 2001. Um, Ivan was involved with the setup of some of our recipes with Damien Noxon, and they operated, or Damo and his family operated that very successfully for a number of years. I think, as in life, many things changed in COVID for me as well. And I've got my backgrounds, I suppose, business, finance, and animal welfare, which is a bit of a strange combination. Anyway, always been the one to bring a cheese platter and love cheese. So we saw this become available, went down and somehow decided on a bit of a tree change, I think was the expression. Um, I grew up in the country, so it was an easy sort of transition. Charlotte was one of the first or the very early team members. The dairy had effectively been closed down. So the first, effectively, not quite, but effectively, the first year was spent getting the goat herd, getting the farming activities up and running. Breeding, we breed from within. We found some that we could purchase to expand our herd numbers. So it took us about a year to really get that up and running. Charlotte then joined. I think, Charlotte, have you been with us two years now? Yeah. Anyway, two years.
I've been there for over 3 years now.
Oh
It's
wow! Oh, that's gone
2022.
quickly.
It's
That's
gone
gone
very
super.
quickly.
So yeah, that's gone super quickly. So we were delighted to meet Charlotte at the outset. She'd had home cheese making experience, and Charlotte, correct me if I'm wrong on anything, but joined and threw herself into it, as did, I suppose, anybody who came within our orbit. And what's been a really lovely journey has been the passion and the enthusiasm that everybody has brought to it. So 3.5 years later, we're sitting there, we're almost at capacity on our goat herd. So the goats, we operate a closed herd, which I'm sure you'll all know what that means, but essentially our goats are very well looked after, and they don't go off the property, and nor can any other goats go on for disease purposes. um, it doesn't it does it improves their longevity, so and their animal welfare. So we are not organic, but we run a circular or a regenerative farming operation, where the whey that comes out of the factory is fed through a series of pipes, and the excess milk is fed through a series of pipes into a dam that is then treated in a really gentle manner, and that's sprayed back on the paddocks as muck. by the muck spreader, and that grass is then hand cut and fed to the milking does. So it's a very regenerative, or I use the word organic, not in the pure sense of the word, but organic environment. We are on a beautiful property. We have good rainfall. We do have to buy in some feed, and obviously our goats have a dietitian. So when things are a bit off, we increase barley, or we increase, vetch, or whatever it is. So diet's very important to the goats, because we're a wet environment. It obviously, the more attention we give food, the less attention the vet needs to pay to us.
How many, sorry, Sonia, can I just interrupt you? How many goats do you have, and what kind of goats are they?
Okay, we've got the Sainans and the Toggenburgs, primarily. We did bring in a little bit of Nigerian dwarf for a period there, but that probably didn't work quite as well as we anticipated. So there's been a lot of trial and error. And we have our milking herd at a maximum will probably be between about 160 and 200. So we are a farmhouse milking or farmhouse dairy. We're not a big commercial dairy. We have a couple of guys on the farm who are absolutely fabulous and amazing, and we love them. And they deliver the milk to Charlotte every morning or second morning, depending on the volumes. Charlotte then, it's all on property. Charlotte then, with her team, pasteurizes it and turns it into, well, Caprino, which you have. But what is it? 9 other cheeses, I think, Charlotte?
We have 10 varieties at the moment, and then one that's also seasonal that's not on at the moment, the Capricious.
Correct. Yeah, which is a beautiful, wrinkly, moldy cheese. So we're flat chat at the moment. I think our milking we're at our limit at the minute. We're fortunately selling pretty much everything we make, other than what we're retaining for aging. And the aging is on, I suppose, and again, Charlotte, jump in. We've got a range of lactic, and we've got a range of semi-hard and hard cheeses. They're the ones we have. We've entered many of them, but they've had great response from both the restaurant business and the restaurant industry and the cheese world, largely because there's not a lot of hard and semi-hard goat cheese out there. A lot of it is imported. So you've got the Caprino coming through, which is absolutely amazing. It's a hard one. Charlotte, is there anything you can add about the Caprino? Because
We'll come back specifically to the Caprino, but before we leave the series, Adele, would you like to?
Yeah, could I ask a question? I read an article where you talked about wanting to take a gentle cheese making process.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of explained that, I think, quite well. And you have a background in business and animal welfare.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a sort of an unusual combination. I wondered if you could talk a little bit more, I guess, because you've got a closed system. So I guess that means one of the issues you identified then was the challenge of scale. Is that still an issue for you?
Oh, it's a massive issue. It's a massive issue. I think it's become a bigger issue in the last 12 months. Probably because of cost of living and the massive number of imports that are now coming in. So I think, scale is. I think what we do is it's a little bit like a good wine. People are prepared to pay for a good wine if they know it's a good wine. So sometimes we run very strong relationships. We like to, or we try to, with all of our suppliers. And for instance, it's the aging process. One of them came to us and said, we'd love to see what this is like in a year. And Charlotte, we've just put some wheels away for aging, haven't we, of the Caprino? Yep. And so we do work with our our suppliers or our end users a lot. We take feedback, and I think once people like the story. I think people like the Australian story. And, we've employed locally, we source locally wherever possible. Yes, I talk to Dairy Food Safe Victoria and sort of say, oh, this is so hard for these, to get some margin, and we have to comply, obviously, as you all are aware, with as the big players out there. So that is, yes, it is. It's really, really hard. I think there's some benefits from being on your own land. You can alter things a little bit to try and mitigate some of the impact of scale. I think we're really lucky when we talk about scale is that all of our team, and we are very much a team. I can go in and support Charlotte. I can't go in and make the cheese. I can go in and we have a cellar door or a cheese cellar door. I can go in and I can talk to people. I can go and help in the sales area. I can go and help in the delivery or on the farm. That's probably where I'm of most use, to be honest. And so I think we're such a small group. Really does hit us. So I think the fact that
Sonia, can I just
Yep.
interrupt you there? You froze for about 30 seconds there. So I'll have to cut that bit out. But can I take you back and just ask you, you said you grew up on a farm, or you had a farming background? Kerry and I are both farmers, so we're kind of curious to hear more about that.
It was a horse background, so it's nothing like this.
Horse?
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yep. So no, nothing like this, big animal. And it was in central Victoria. It was hot, dry, flat, and horses. So this was, I have the pleasure or otherwise of having a partner who is perhaps not a country person. So Mornington Peninsula and its proximity to Melbourne was helpful. It is somewhat of a hindrance on occasion because if a valve goes, let's say a valve goes, there's not too many dairy farmers or dairy farm machinery servicing agents down there, or the size equipment that we use. We've got tractors, muckers, scrapers, whatever they are, harvest foragers. It's quite hard to get them serviced. So we have to run a very coordinated business to adapt to that, a really well-informed business. But no, my farming background was more just harsh, dry Australian gum trees, and that's sort of what we've got down there with a little bit more water.
Yeah, okay. Well, Kerry might have some questions I'll ask you now.
Well, Sonia, I think we have the same role in our businesses, because my role in Nimbin Valley Dairy is managing the farm and the sales and making sure everybody's happy and everything ticking in the background. So I sympathise with you entirely.
Good.
Because you have 20 hats like I do.
Yep.
I've just come back from farmer's market and
Oh.
go and pack the van for my son to do a market tomorrow, and then get ready for the cafe to open tomorrow morning for breakfast after I milk the goats. So
it's never ending.
It isn't. So we've got a small herd of goats and cows as well that we and we're in a high rainfall area, so I know what you hear what you say about goats and wet weather. They just do not like it. Horses, you know what it's like. You just feed animals, just keep on feeding them, and you just keep on feeding them, and that's all there is to it.
Something like that. We actually do have a very small number of belted Galloways on our property, and they help manage the worm process for us.
They would,
yeah. So we move them through the paddock so the goats don't get to eat too low.
Yeah.
And obviously they fertilize the paddocks at the same time, and they're nice to look at.
Yeah, they are. It's good. That's good. Yeah. So
Go ahead.
Well,
the geography, I just wonder, about goats, because you must be the only goat farm, but, there aren't many dairies left in that area necessarily either. So is it the geography that has partly
No,
kind of shaped
it's
the decision
no,
around?
it's scale. I
Mm.
think it's scale. I think it's as simple as that. The Mornington Peninsula, something during COVID that happened, we became metropolitan, not regional. So the
Yeah.
Mornington Peninsula lost all of its seasonal workforce on I'm not sure the appropriate visas. So that really made it hard for everybody, not just dairies, for any business that relied on, that imported seasonal worker. Typically, they've always loved coming to the Mornington Peninsula because it's within a cooey of a beach. However, the Yarra Valley, which is similar to us, is a regional area, and we are still metropolitan. So it is that has caused a lot. So I think the other dairies were probably generational as well. I think there was an issue to do with that. I think scale, generational, the changing, I'm not sure, what else, but yeah.
It's interesting because the Mornington Peninsula is one of the few councils I know. They have a 6-year food and agroecology strategy.
Mhm.
Has that been helpful? Because, like in 1933, a third of the population in that area were agricultural workers, and then in the 80s that went down to like 4%, and I think it's now sitting at between 1% and 2%.
Mhm.
Not necessarily a lot. Has the strategy worked of the council in terms of supporting sustainable food growing against lifestyle stuff? Because that's probably always been an issue in Mornington Peninsula.
It is, and it has been. Look, I think to be fair, they try to the extent they're able. So they often put up have a program which is good and participate, and some of them are great. At the end of the day, they're state government issues, not council issues, I think that some of us face. So the council can only do so much, but they do have a program. It's not. I think they produced a well circulated document in 2012, which was supporting agriculture on Mon I don't know that that's been updated. If it has been updated, it hasn't been widely circulated at this point, but there has just been, to be fair, a new council, 6 months ago or something like that. And there's a lot of transport is a big issue down there as well. So it's not it's not an easy environment to do what we do in, but it can be a very rewarding environment because it is a very supportive environment. And we've found that with everybody who's joined our team. Yeah, which has been great.
Sonia, can I ask you about, you mentioned, I think, great milk starts with great grass.
Mhm.
What improvements of the soil do you do? And how does the flavour profiles of your cheeses, how are they impacted?
So here's a funny story, a little bit lighter. Last Christmas, to attract people, we did a Christmas tree promotion, which was come and leave your Christmas trees at the front of our property and feed the goats. Come in, have a coffee, etc., etc. I actually wasn't there. I was away, and the phone was going and going and going and going. And first of all, it was our farm manager, Scott, who said, Sonia, stop this. We can't handle anymore. Then it was Charlotte saying, the cheese is starting to taste like pine cones. No more Christmas trees. So we are very mindful of it. We find, and Charlotte, I think you'd probably agree that when when we fertilized one of the paddocks from the muck dam and we hand cut it, which is a very, very long process. And we are trying to buy some equipment that will help us with that, particularly with the mixer, because it's often mixed with veg. The milk does change, doesn't it, Charlotte?
Yes, it does for sure. And also we have the natural fluctuations of the milk over the course of the year in terms of its composition as well. Closer to the goat kidding time, we have very rich and fatty milk. And because we don't standardize, we like to work with those natural fluctations instead and stay true to our milk.
Yep, which is where we talk about the gentle processes.
Yeah. So Charlotte, can you now we'll go back to you. Let's talk a little bit about Caprino. And I guess a good way to start that is you said you don't standardize your milk. What does that mean? You don't standardize?
A lot of dairies will take out a certain amount of cream so that they have the same composition of milk for every single batch. Whereas we work with these natural fluctuations within the milk, and that can change based on the pastures as well, so that we're staying true to the way that our milk changes, rather than having a focus on the super consistent product. We want to ensure that we're instead utilising the best of that milk.
And the variations, most of our customers, they will come and say, oh, we had this cheese at this time last year and it was amazing. So it's been really nice when we talk about, scale and getting to know your customers, that there are customers who will come to us in, let's say, June, who want that particular flavour, or September, October after the kidding. So it's worked. We think it's worked quite well. I hope.
So now I've got some of your Caprino here. So this is aged for 6 months. So this is obviously from last season, is it? How does that work? Because your goats have just kidded now.
We have kidded now.
This is a matured cheese, isn't it? So it must be from the end of last season. Is that correct?
It would be that, Charlotte, would that, yeah?
Yes, I believe that one was from the end of last season. Because the Caprino is such a dry cheese as well, we like to make it when the milk solids are lower.
When the milk is not what, sorry?
When the milk solids are lower, and it hasn't got as much fat in it.
Yeah, right. So you can make different types of cheeses at different times of the year because the milk quality changes.
Yes, yeah. We also we like that our product is a little bit different at certain times of year as well, even for the ones that we make throughout. At certain times, our feta will be very, very creamy and soft, whereas at other times it's more crumbly, which we actually like to work with, and people generally like that kind of change throughout the year as well.
Okay, so how would you both describe Caprino? What type of cheese is it? And I want to know how do you enjoy eating it?
So I think if I jump in there, so eating, I found Caprino interesting. I pop it on a cheese board. I shave it in salads or break little pieces off with honey just to have on a cheese board. It is, and again, Charlotte, pick me up here, but it's a Romano style. So you could shave it over a pasta or a risotto. If we have another soft spreadable product that we would, a whipped product that we would stir through the risotto and then shave some of the Caprino on top. So it's a very lush table cheese that you can use to add, is perhaps the best thing to a recipe. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question here, Adele? I'm just curious to know, like this style of cheese, would it have been made historically in Australia by early immigrants when they said, because it's not obviously not an English style cheddar, so the English part of our population wouldn't have been making it, but maybe the Greeks or the Italians or those immigrants.
Yeah, I mean, goat is really interesting. I think people selling goat meat have really benefited from the research that's been done and the promotion by the Meat and Livestock Association, in Australia, whereas dairy goat hasn't, it's a relatively kind of new thing in Australia, maybe the early 90s even. When we think about some of the larger companies, there were goats that came on the first fleet, and they did use them for dairying, but there was a prominence, I guess, a preference for using cows. So
Well,
I was really,
why did they bring the goats?
oh, they bought goats and cows and plants and all sorts of things. They would have been they were larger ships, I think, than people imagined, and also the passengers weren't that comfortable. So you imagine they weren't in their own little kind of quarters or anything like that. So there probably would have been 5 or 6 or something like that.
A lot.
The cows did go feral. I mean, and that was the other thing that people kind of associated. The goats did as well. So people were generally, associated goats with feral goats and probably more for meat. So I was kind of interested as well. I know that there's a goat dairy association in Australia, but whether you identified Sonia as a dairy farmer or a goat farmer, because that's
It's an interesting
representation.
it is interesting, and there is no separation in the licensing. Obviously, our processes have to be approved by DSFB, but if you're a dairy farmer, you're a dairy farmer, and that's what you are. Yeah, it's interesting. I think the acceptance. I think Paul, you mentioned. I think the acceptance of goat's cheese has changed incredibly. And I think fabulous organisations like yours, like Cheese Therapy, getting Australian and bespoke cheeses out to people, because it's really hard if you're in a supermarket to go and look at that. So, everybody now is online. So Cheese Therapy, how fabulous. Have your therapy box delivered and taste some beautiful Australian products. So I think it is thanks to people like you and thanks to, other small dairies, they're getting it. The word about Australian cheese is getting out, and it's fantastic. It's still a hard slog, as you know full well, probably.
In 2016, which was the last time they did any kind of audit, there were only 68 dairy goat farms in Australia. That's not a lot.
No. It was actually quite funny. I can't remember what it was. About a year ago, they said the 10 rarest professions or something in Australia, the top 10 rarest, and goat farming was in it. So we were happy with that. Yeah.
Charlotte, can I just ask you some techie questions? I'm really interested to know about how you actually make this caprino. So the milk arrives in from those lovely goats into your factory, and this caprino cheese comes out 6 months later. What happens in the meantime?
So the milk is delivered to us, and we always try to use really fresh milk as well, because the fresher the milk, the less of those kind of goaty, barnyardy flavors come through. So we like to use it fresh, and we pasteurize it just low and slow, in a really gentle way, so that we can keep that integrity of the cheese, of the milk, and that real quality that's there. And so the caprino is, of course, the Romano style. So it's very hard. It's the hardest cheese that we make. And there's quite a lot of milk that goes into every single wheel. So it's all handmade. Every single batch, every single wheel, is handmade, hand turned, hand packaged, hand cut, everything. And you know, we take good care of them as they're aging over those 6 months as well.
Okay, so once the milk's come in, you've made it into the actual cheeses themselves. Do you just sit them on the shelf for 6 months, or do you have to look after them? How does that all work?
Yeah, so we're not doing a natural round at the moment. So we have them packaged and maturing like that. But we open them regularly and clean them and check on them, check the flavour as well, do tastings, all of that with it, to really ensure that it's maturing as we would like it to.
Oh, okay. Yep. So, and what about your cheese making cultures? What do you use? Is it a secret mix, or is it
The secret mix.
a secret mix? And what are you looking for when you add the cultures in? What's that doing to the milk? How is that helping make cheese?
Well, we use quite a few different cultures in the Caprino actually, and they all have their own little role to play in the flavour and composition of it. But yeah, generally the cultures can help with acidification, ensuring that our pH targets are met, and also to provide those special select flavours that we're looking for in our cheese.
Yeah, great.
People would be more used to soft goat's cheese, wouldn't they, in Australia, if anything? So do you find that you have to do a lot of education? Are people kind of are people buying the hard cheeses?
I think there's two ways of answering that. One is people tend to love goat's cheese. So if they see another goat's cheese product, they love to try it. And inevitably, they like the semi-hard. It's like, oh, we didn't even know that existed. The second batch of people, which is quite funny, is that we offer them a tasting and they don't know if it's goat or cow. And a lot of people won't even pick, not on the soft cheese, but on the semi-hards. A lot of people won't even pick that it's goat. Now, we would not, we would explain to the people, you tell us what this is. Are you happy tasting? Or ask them. And inevitably people are. But it's surprising. And they're like, oh, that's great. So they buy, hopefully.
Okay, well,
So can I just ask Sonia? I just wanted to know how important is the cellar door to your business? You know, is that
sure.
part of the education?
Sure.
How many repeat customers do you get?
Yeah, sure. So we've probably got a couple, and we've learned as we've gone along, to be honest. The cellar door is where we can showcase our cheese. So we have a little tasting board, not dissimilar to a wine cellar. And you can really taste. So it's a really good way of introducing people to the semi-hards and the various types of goat's cheese. They generally come in looking for a piece of chef. So the cellar door helps from that. It also it makes us part of the community. So we want and we need to be part of that community. We enjoy being part of that community. So having the cellar door, it's really lovely. So we've got some local horse riders, group of ladies who come up. We've actually put a hitching post in for them, and they ride up on I don't know, Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever it is. They've had a nice ride. They pop in, they have what we call a deluxe cheese board, which is a little bit of most of the cheese, and a little drink, and they sit there and they're as happy as Larry. And then, so I think, they'll then bring their families back. And we do a high cheese on Mother's Day. We do some other sort of promotions. So the cellar door is good. It's good. It becomes a little bit, it's obviously very hard to manage from a staffing perspective because we've got limited staff down there over winter, but we find by and large it works really well. Everybody who's in it, we've got a fabulous manager, lights up the room when you walk in, and that's what we love. So it's good, and it's a place for all of us, all of our team, to gather and have lunch when we're closed too.
Yeah, sure. Well, we're running out of time. So maybe as a last question, can I just ask you to tell us about the future? What's in store for Mainridge Dairy?
Wow, I feel like I've just taken breath after 3.5 years. I think I think the answer is efficiencies of scale. That's where we need to look. Whether it's in the boxes we buy, reinforcing our story, sourcing well-priced, high-quality food for the goats. Probably what we, look at breeding high milkers. So rather than taking every goat, even if it's only producing 1.5 litres a day, we really will breed off moving forward those that are higher milkers. Just improving our systems, improving what we do, looking for some more awards, and perhaps taking a breath and enjoying what the whole team, and as I said, Charlotte's been there almost from day dot, what the whole team has created. It's a very satisfying job.
It sounds like it's time you sat down with a glass of wine and had some Caprino.
Good idea.
Have you any other questions, Adele or Anne or Kerry?
Well, you often ask people, and I think it's a nice one, Charlotte, what is the joy of cheese making for you?
Well, I grew up on a permaculture farm in Far East Gippsland, and so I've always had a passion for using the produce that we have around us to produce something delicious. So I personally, I've always adored cheese. It's been my favorite food from day one, really. And so having that start on the farm and then also going to Long Paddock Cheese School really just increased that passion for me. It's a dream come true, really.
Can I just ask one last question to you, Charlotte? What's in the pipeline? What's your next secret cheese that is going to come out?
Oh, we're currently working on our seasonal capricious cheese and getting that back into our product line. We really want to ensure that it's the best quality that it can be, and so we've wanted to work on it as much as we can to ensure it gets to that standard.
So when can we expect to see that one?
Hopefully next year.
Next year. Okay.
Okay. Thanks very much, Charlotte and Sonia. Thank you, Adele and Anne. I think that's a wrap.
Terrific. Thank you for having us, and thank you for allowing Mainridge Dairy to be part of Cheese Therapy's November box. We were really excited. So, and I will love hearing from friends saying, "Oh, we got your cheese." So that'll be great.
The first ones just went out today, Sonia. So,
amazing.
Yeah, we'll get one down to you too.
Perfect. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Adele and Anne, yours went out today too.
Yay! I know I hadn't tried it before we had this conversation, but I'm looking forward to it.
Good. Too.
Okay, thanks very much, Sonia.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Good night, all.
To see you in person too.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.